Hello everyone, this is Fantasy-esque and welcome to Lakeburg Legacies. I thought I'd try something new on the channel because I think I need a little bit of a break from ClanGen, and this game seemed like the perfect place for us to build some new stories. So this is a game I've recently been exposed to and I've been having a lot of fun playing it in my own time. It's basically a village management game but with matchmaking and generational style families. You start off with a peasant and then find them a match, give them jobs, build houses, recruit other villagers, and watch your kingdom grow as they have children and take on apprentices. It can get a little bit chaotic, but hopefully we'll come across some fun characters and see what stories their lives will bring to the kingdom. So without further ado, let's get started. Okay, so I am thinking I am going to play on the endless game duration just because having a timeline stresses me out, and I would rather not have that. Plus, I want to see, my villages and families through the generations as they get older and all of that. And it's going to be cut very short if I have to limit myself to a certain number of years. So you can play for like 30 years, 75 years, 100 years. But the good thing is that even if you play like at a certain time limit, when you get to the end of that time limit, you'll get an option to extend for another 45 years or something. So you could kind of continue in like an endless route, but I just want to go endless from the get-go so I don't have to worry about like reaching a certain goal by a certain year. And this is like an experimental sort of mode, so the game balance hasn't been entirely worked out, but I've been playing in my own time in endless mode, and I think it is quite fun. So that's what I'm gonna stick to. And then you have like the game styles you could go with. You've got regular, social, management, and custom. The social seems very interesting, and I mean it kind of makes more sense when you go into the story aspect of things, but I will stick to just the regular because relationships between villages, resource production, and service gauges will require similar investment. That is like a-okay with me, that's fine. Economy is going to be like normal, service buildings and illicit trade is going to be normal, so that's fine. But we're gonna hit play and we're gonna see who our founder is, because whether our founder is male or female is going to affect the way that I do families, or like how my bloodlines are traced. So let's take a look. I'm excited. Okay, and oh nice! We got a female! Okay, that is really, really cool. So this is our kingdom, and as we kind of introduce more buildings and, expand, this is definitely going to get bigger and bigger, but right now we're just starting off with like a lumberjack's lodge. Now, some of these things, it can be overwhelming and complicated, but we're not going to worry too much about explaining stuff. We're just going to like go for the story and see how it goes from there. But this is Teresa. Okay, Teresa Denon is kind of our founder of this kingdom. She is 25 years old. Let's see, she's well-mannered, a glutton, kind, and in terms of her like genetics, she's also strong, which is really good. Okay, that's nice to know. She looks very pretty though. Very, very pretty. She's currently homeless. Yeah, I realized that. We're gonna fix it in a little bit. But in terms of her career, so this is kind of her potential. And I have noticed that sometimes this does change for various characters, like throughout their life. But when I give my citizens a job, unless they can find a job within something they like, they stay unemployed. So as we grow, we might start having characters who are kind of lying around and waiting for a job, or maybe they kind of stay at home partners and parents, like who knows, we'll see where it goes. But she looks so pretty with like her auburn hair and those green eyes and her dusky skin. Very, very nice. But okay, she obviously wants to be a lumberjack the most, and then mason and farmer. The sparklies is very, very tempting, and that basically means that this third job meets her aspiration, which is over here, like it has to do with food, but I don't worry too much about that. I kind of focus on just like the order in which they want to do the jobs. So obviously she wants to be a lumberjack, that's what I'm going to focus on. And then in terms of her relationships, let's take a look. So as we gain more characters in the kingdom, they're going to start coming into play over here. We'll see their cards and, how she gets along with them or doesn't get along with them. That'll be quite fun. Let's see, in terms of her preferences, this comes into play when we do matchmaking. And I can be very mean when we do matchmaking because the more couples you have in love, you gain more hearts that you see up here at the top of the screen, and you can use those hearts to, swipe for new matches. But I never use my hearts, and I never try for perfect or excellent or good matches. Literally the first match they get is the match that they are going to stick with, and sometimes over the period of their life, a match that was bad can end up becoming a perfect match, and sometimes, more often than not, those matches will end up in divorces. But hey, that's fine because that adds drama to the kingdom. But she likes fishing, kittens, and treats. She seems like a really fun person, but okay. And then she dislikes cuddles. How you like kittens? You know what? This is kind of cute. I was gonna say, how do you like kittens and not want to cuddle a kitten? But maybe she just wants to feed kittens like fishies, which I'm sure the kittens appreciates. She just wants the kittens to be happy, but she's not the kind. She's all about food. She wants treats. She wants to give kittens treats, but she's not about the cuddles and the fluff. That is completely fine. But she dislikes cuddles, meditation, and silver and gold. Interesting. So she's not about that money. Okay, fair enough, fair enough. She likes to live a comfortable and wholesome life, I think. And then we have inheritance, and this is basically the family members of our character. So as, her family grows, they'll kind of be listed over here. So grandparents, parents, her current partner, any exes, children, all of those kind of things. So the first thing that we want to do is give her a job. So we do have an opening with, the Lumberjacks Lodge. So we are going to come right here. And Teresa Denon, she is going to start working at the Lumberjacks Lodge, which is wonderfully fine. And I do want to improve working conditions just a little bit over here. So we'll give her a nice little bump. And then I think we want to get started with building a house. She needs a home before she can find a husband for herself. And because our founder was a female, the way I'm going to play it is that only my women are allowed to have properties, and the family name is going to get passed down from the mothers. So that means that if we have a couple and the wife dies for some reason, the husband will never be able to inherit the house. He and any children he has are going to become homeless, and basically he has to find a new wife who's then going to be given property and, basically everything they have in terms of comfort and a roof over their heads is dependent on the woman of the house. So that's the way I'm gonna do it. But we're gonna let time kind of speed by so she can give us some wood and we can start building. Okay, there we go. So we have 17 wood now, just enough to build a new house. Excellent. So Teresa is going to be the homeowner, and the way these homes work, so you can only have an owner and then their spouse to be the partner. And then they will, in their own time, have a child if you have slots available over here. I typically only leave the one slot open. I don't open up for 2 and 3. I mean, I could, but I usually don't. But I don't know. I'm kind of wondering whether or not I should have at least 2 slots, but I kind of like keeping it to 1 because that kind of gives us a bit of, it helps with the population control, actually. I might just keep the 1 because it helps with population control. But also, sometimes we end up with some interesting situations. For example, if we have a woman who has a child and she doesn't have a partner, right? Because her husband has died or something. And then we have a guy whose wife has died and then he has a child as well. If those two marry, then typically, because the husband's moving in with the wife into her home and there's only 1 slot open for a partner, his child usually becomes an orphan. But the good thing is another couple that haven't had their own offspring yet might adopt that child. So yeah, it's a few things going on over here. But I'm excited. So we do have a home. I'm gonna head over and we're gonna have our first matchmaking session. So this is where we do matchmaking. So Teresa is going to find herself, gender doesn't matter over here. If you have like a same-sex couple, then typically they will adopt children into the family anyway, so that doesn't affect whether or not they can have children. But because I'm tracking kind of bloodlines, I am gonna stick to getting Teresa a husband. So let's go to surroundings, because we don't have anyone in Lakeburg right now. But as Lakeburg grows, we can kind of pull from the population. So it's going to be luck of the draw for her, because pretty much the first person she finds is the person that we're going to go with. And okay, Gawain. He's 22 years old. He's a little bit younger than her, a peasant. Let's take a look. So he's indecisive, mean, but devout, and oh, he's ugly. Okay, he's genetically ugly, apparently. But she's strong, so there is that. And in terms of careers, he's got mason, farmer, and gatherer, which is kind of useful, especially farmer, because we're going to start, hopefully, aiming for that pretty soon. Like once we get enough materials, we'll be able to build a farm, and that's going to help us out with food. So good on that. In terms of his likes, he likes muscles, the countryside, and music, and he dislikes public executions, divination, and feasting. Oh, and because he's mean, we have like a negative 3% affinity, but it's like average. You can have awful matches, bad matches, average, good, excellent, and perfect matches. Like I said, I'm really mean in this regard. Like whoever they get is who they get. So we're gonna go ahead and send Teresa on a date with Gawain. Now also, the way you could do this is try and like memorize, or I suppose the way the system is supposed to work is that you try and memorize the likes and dislikes, and then when you go on a date, this is kind of locked, and you have to try and remember what is their preferences, and then you pick your responses based on that. But I don't do that. I don't take it into account. I basically just select like one option consistently, and in my head that's like up to Teresa whether or not she puts effort into the date or not, and whether or not it actually works. And then once you have enough hearts, you could kind of just go with this and organize the wedding. Don't even have the date, which again I don't do, because it's kind of fun sometimes when I really like someone, like a potential match, but then usually because of the jobs, like I'm mainly looking at the jobs to be honest, I like a potential match, but then they don't end up like the date is a fail, so they don't end up together. But then sometimes they might end up with someone awful, but for some reason the date goes smoothly and they end up getting married. It adds drama, So okay, let's go on a date. So as you can see, the cards are locked up, and typically you can use hearts to, ask our matchmaker, whose name is Tindra, for clues. That's going to help us with the date, but I don't use any of that. So let's have a look. Teresa and Gawain are enjoying a boat ride on the lake's tranquil waters. Considering how romantic it is, wouldn't now be the ideal time to go for it? So ask Gawain for his opinion on divinatory pseudosciences, or sitting on a cushion to meditate. Do these people not have something more useful to do? We'll go for the meditate. Gawain, a regular meditator, unsuccessfully tries to get Teresa to change her mind. Okay, so that didn't go too well. We have 3 dates. Let's see, bummer. Can this magnificent moonlight still help our lovebirds to bond more? Okay, Teresa and Gawain both enjoy the pale moonlight. This unique moment allows them to get to know each other better. Talk about favorite songs, or how about attending the next public execution together? We'll go with the execution. Goodness gracious, Gawain finds this invitation anything but romantic. Let's have a drink. Teresa and Gawain are spending time at the inn, emptying a few glasses. Will the warm atmosphere help them break the ice? The abundance of fishermen makes swimming in the lake far less enjoyable. Or everyone knows that big muscles imply a small brain. Wait, we're gonna offend the brain, okay? Gawain swaggers to express his disagreement. Oh, it's a fail. Okay, so Teresa, yeah, she wasn't, I think, too interested in that. Completely not compatible, did not work out. And now we have someone new. So with this person, Loup, we have an excellent affinity, which is really, really cool. He is 28, so he is a few years older than Teresa. Look at how many matches they have. They both like kittens, and they both dislike cuddles and silver and gold, which is really, really cool. And then let's see, he's a peasant as well. I think you have 3 ranks or classes. You have peasants, artisans, and nobles. He likes feasting and music as well, and then he just likes dancing. Okay, let's see. He's depressive, okay? Proud and a coward, and he doesn't have any like genetic traits to pass on, but he would make a good fisherman, miner, and hunter. Okay, I mean, hunter is not that far away in terms of hopefully one of the buildings we're going to be getting pretty soon. So let's try with him and see if it works out. Let's see, Loup. Let's go on a date. Okay, so they're starting off at the inn. We can talk about the importance of money in a relationship. We'll talk about the neighborhood's cutie little kittens. We'll go with the kittens. Teresa and Loup agree. Life in Lakeburg would be much sadder without its small, four-legged inhabitants. Okay, say, what about going up the hill to enjoy the moonlight? Let's see. We can have, I seek a dancing partner for Lakeburg's next ball. Or no cuddles before the 3rd date, minimum. We'll go with the no cuddles. What do you know? Loup isn't very tactile either. It's possible to be happy without rubbing one's sweat and germs onto someone else's skin, you know? Okay, I feel like they're on the same wavelength at this point. Everything seems to be fine. Say, what about a boat ride on the lake? And then we can have the gargantuan display of food at the last banquet was simply disgusting. We'll talk about favorite songs. I think we're going to talk about favorite songs. Teresa and Loup talk for hours about their favorite bards and musical genres. And it's a match! Look at that, guys. It is a match. Okay, so our love meter, this is what comes up when we have our wedding day. So after you have a successful date, it'll show the affinity, and your love meter can be anywhere from like 25, 1 bar, to, I haven't seen 4 bars, I've seen 3. I don't think you can have 4 bars at the wedding. I think the max you can have is 3, and then as time goes on, they either gain 1 more or they lose. Because I haven't seen 4 bars, because you only have 3 dates. And like whatever answers you get right on the day is going to affect what this is, right? So let's see. Let us rejoice. We are gathered here today to celebrate the union between Teresa and Loup. Do promise each other love, honesty, and fidelity until death do you part. And then you can actually choose whether or not you do get them married or you don't. So the date can be interrupted. They can step away from the wedding altar, and you can go and find another match. But we're going to go ahead. We are going to let them get married. So congratulations. Oh, I forgot to read that. That's okay. By the powers vested, they are now husband and wife. Excellent. So Loup Anderson and Teresa Denon have met and now share the following relationship. They are in love, which is wonderful. But yeah, he's unemployed. And like I said beforehand, he can be a fisherman, a miner, or a hunter, and we don't have any of those roles right now, so he's actually going to remain unemployed until we get that worked out. Now, we could go ahead and work, and I think in the beginning, the way I kind of like to do things is, as time goes on, we'll be able to recruit some more villagers, as you can see over here. And yeah, vital needs pretty bad. We'll be able to recruit new villagers, and then when we have people that can fill in different roles, we'll start expanding. So if we come across another lumberjack, I'll expand like a new slot so that we can get the lumberjack to work there. And typically I try to grow in that way until like I don't have enough resources and I have to focus on other things. Yeah, it's again a little bit confusing sometimes, but it's okay. We'll get a move on slowly but surely. In terms of the next buildings that we're going to be able to realistically build, is probably going to be the farm, because that only requires 30 wood. And basically the buildings here, the major stuff, that's something I continue building regardless of whether or not we have workers for it. But sometimes you do, for example, once you get to like these later things, like this sewing workshop, you need to have a hunter's cabin in order to make a sewing workshop because you need leather. So if we don't have any hunters to work in the hunter's cabin, we won't be able to make, you know, the sewing workshop and some of the other stuff. So it's definitely interesting. There's a ton of stuff, and eventually you look at this. We've got so many things to build. These are various effects. We have transform resources and the primary resources and prestige buildings, which we absolutely need in the kingdom. Once we have a castle that you can see over here, we'll be able to crown a monarch and we'll have a royal family. Obviously, because we have a matriarchal society over here, we're gonna have a queen. So I'm excited for that, and then she can have, you know, her heirs, her royal children. It's gonna be wonderful, guys. So many fun things that we can do. But okay, let us try and get a bit of a move on with our resources so that we can try and build a farm. So as you can see, it's 19th June now, time has gone a bit. We have enough wood to actually build a farm. So that's what I'm going to do. Okay, there we go. Look at how nice that looks. We have a farm. We do have an opening for a farm as well, but I feel like we're going to need some more recruits before we can go ahead and assign a farmer. Once we get a recruit, thankfully we'll be able to find them a match. So, you know, there'll be like 2 extra villagers. Fingers crossed Teresa and Loup have a child of their own, so that's going to be nice. Very quickly, going to visit the house. As you can see, depending on how in love they are or how good their relationship is, they produce hearts and prestige, which is like the little diamond things. So let's take a look. And then, you know, as time goes on as well, they'll have cute little things that happen in the history within the households that we might be able to come in and check up on. So yeah, they have a slot for 1 child. They're obsessed with, you know, having a child. So hopefully as time goes on, they'll kind of expand their family as well. But this is essentially how the house is going to look like once it starts filling up with characters. So okay, so that's who we have in the beginning here. We've got Teresa, we've got Loup. I think that was a pretty decent start, and I'm kind of excited to see how things are going to go in the future. But okay guys, with that said and done, I am going to leave off here. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you all enjoyed, and I will see you all next time. Bye bye.